Hey guys, it's Playing with Myself, and I am here to show you my top 10 of 2023. So, before I get started, let me just go over the rules that I set for myself. And pretty much this year, I only put one rule in place, and that's I will not choose anything that we worked on at Gentle Giant Studios. So, pretty much that eliminates Hasbro Marvel Legends across the board. So, there were a lot of great Marvel Legends this year. I thought Final Swing Spidey came out great, the new upgraded Bucky cap, classic Black Widow, the X-Men 97 Wolverine, Deadpool from the 2-pack. Could go on. There's more, but those were some highlights for me. Love working on Marvel Legends. We didn't even work on all of those. Some of them were other people, but there's great Marvel Legends. Anyway, no Marvel Legends appear in my honorable mentions or my top 10 list across the board. So that's literally the only rule that I set. And because I am doing this on my own, I am going over my honorable mentions, and let me tell you, there are a lot of them. So many good toys came out this year, and I honestly feel like I am still missing a bunch that I absolutely adore, even though I have 20 honorable mentions. So let's get this party started so I can get through all of them. Honorable mention number one is Mafex Nightwing. I thought this figure was great. I've been waiting for a good Mafex Nightwing forever. Bring on Tim Drake Robin. Cannot wait to get him, hopefully, at some point next year. NECA is another company that has done a ton of good stuff this year. And even with my honorable mentions in top 10, I still know that there are a bunch more that I absolutely adored this year. But this is one of them. Alf, the alien from Melmac, came out great. There was also the Comic Con exclusive, which was equally awesome. Very, very cool figure, but he did not quite make it into my top 10. Just like this NECA figure, Dungeons and Dragons Warduke. Very, very cool. I would say that if he had double elbows and double knees and was maybe a little bit more muscular, this guy would have definitely been in my top 10. With that said, still love it. Absolutely a fan of their Dungeons and Dragons stuff in general. I'm buying all of it. Next up, now there was a bunch of NECA TMNT, as always, movie, Mirage comics, and cartoon stuff. Mirage Splinter almost made it in, but instead, honorable mention goes to the Turtle 4-pack. I love these big, beefy, muscular turtles. They're very, very cool. But again, they did not quite crack my top 10 this year. All right. Up next in the honorable mentions is the Noda Toys Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, which he is a very, very white action figure, so I'm sorry that he's a little bit blown out on screen, but this guy's great. You can use a magnet to light up his eyes. He also has the Khonshu head. I actually bought two of this figure. Very, very big fan. But I would say the reason why he's in honorable mentions and didn't make it in my top 10 is I do feel like I have to wash my hands before I play with it. I'm very, very worried about getting him dirty. Probably should have bought the bloody version so then I wouldn't have to worry about it quite so much. Next up in honorable mentions is the Felix Toys Joker. Felix Toys made it into my top 10 last year with their Inkblot, which was the third party Rorschach figure. And this guy came really close as well. Basically, the only reason why he's in honorable mentions is we've had a bunch of good Heath Ledger figures over the years. This is the best one, but there's a few others that you'll see as we get into my top 10. Next up, I'm gonna say honorable mention goes to the GM Toys Reaper figure. So this guy is the third party Hunk action figure. I believe it's GM Toys. It might have been NW Toys. I honestly can't keep all of these third-party companies straight. There's so many of them. They're knocking it out of the park. Some third-party stuff has made it into my top 10. I absolutely am adoring anyone that makes toys. Obviously, skating around some intellectual property stuff, there's questionable things going on there, but I still want these as toys, so I'm very, very happy with it. He is unbelievably posable, super, super cool looking, and I'm very happy with how he came out. Ernie hates Star Wars Black Series. I don't. I still like them. So I'm still buying some. There's quite a few that are lackluster and disappointing, but I have two here in my honorable mentions that I absolutely loved this year. And one is Wicket. So you got little Ewok, and the other is the new R2D2, the one that's bigger, and he can store all sorts of gadgets inside his body. So, very, very cool. Great upgrade to R2D2. And we finally have a Wicket. So, very happy with both of those. Next up in my honorable mentions is SHF. SHF also has some put out some great stuff this year and has a bunch in my top 10, but these are the ones that I loved but didn't quite make it into the top 10 and are just honorable mentions. So we have the SHF Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and here he is with a third-party soft goods, and the SHF Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So really, really happy with both of these. Very, very posable. Comes with a bunch of parts. Obviously, the big thing is that SHF Andrew did not come with an unmasked head. So that was a little bit disappointing. But overall, I really, really dig both of these, and I'm happy to have them on my shelf. Next up in the SHF honorable mentions, which this one may come as a little bit of a surprise. I am a big Berserk fan. There's a whole Berserk shelf back over here with all the Figma toys, and I'm also all in for the SHF stuff. With that said, SHF Guts, while a very, very cool figure, he's a little bit finicky. And he had just enough little issues, and I had enough little nitpicks with him that he didn't quite make it into my top 10. I do love Griffith, and I'm really looking forward to the full Berserker armor version of Guts. I feel like that one might have a little bit less of my gripes about stuff just kind of falling off, or hopefully they work out some of the tolerances on the joints for that release. But in general, very cool figure. I love how it looks. I actually bought two of it. So I am a fan. He just didn't make it into my top 10. And then the final SHF that's in my honorable mentions is Spider-Man 2099 from Into the Spider-Verse. So this figure is fantastic. I think the only real reasons why I didn't put him into my top 10 is his giant hard plastic cape. I was not a fan of that. And the fact that his torso barbell joint, you have to at least flip it upside down, if not mod it. I modded mine, so he gets great movement in the torso now, but he doesn't come out of the box that way. So that was a little bit disappointing. Other than that, this is a very, very good figure. All right. Next up in honorable mentions. We're almost there, I promise. And then we'll get into the top 10, and this will only be 2 hours of your time. So next up is Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified. G.I. Joe Classified put out a ton of stuff this year. I am a big fan of the line. I am trying to limit it to just kind of classic characters and not repaints, but I fail miserably and I'm buying so much of it. I absolutely love everything they're doing. But these two figures did not quite make it into my top 10, but I think that they're some of the better options. So first is the retro carded Storm Shadow. So this is basically in there because the Storm Shadow figure came out last year in 2020, 2022, and I believe he was in my top 10. This is basically just a few new parts and repaint of that figure. This is the version that I want, so I am very happy. I own two of this figure, one opened and one carded still. I also think Chuckles came out great. And like, even with these two just being in my honorable mentions, like I love Shockwave and Tunnel Rat and all sorts of others, but pretend like you didn't hear those because they don't count as my honorable mentions. Storm Shadow and Chuckles do. All right, up next is 3 Zero's fourth Angel figure. So this guy is super, super creepy. I have an Evangelion shelf right up here next to my computer. I absolutely love the original Evangelion series and then the rebuild movies. I have been waiting for a good figure of specifically the fourth angel, but any angels in general to add to the shelf for a really, really long time. And this guy is great. If he had just a tiny bit more articulation, he might have made it into my full top 10. But as is, I absolutely adore him. No regrets on this purchase, and very, very cool toy if you're an Evangelion fan. All right, next up, this guy made it into my honorable mentions based purely on the fact that I love the character because the figure is a little bit lackluster. So this is the Square Enix Bring Arts Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. I think this figure looks fantastic. The problem with it is that it is expensive and he doesn't come with that much stuff. Only the one head that you see on him right here and a couple of hands. And the articulation, it's like, while it's like what the articulation breakdown is what you want, the hips have a tendency to kind of just pop off. His torso doesn't get the kind of range you want either. So it was a little bit disappointing. But again, this is a video game that I like. This is one of the final video games that I really spent a great deal of time playing. And it's that classic version of him that I've always wanted instead of like the new, prettier one. It's like, no, this is actual video game styled Cloud Strife. So absolutely dig it despite its flaws. All right. Next up in my honorable mentions is the Mezco 112th G.I. Joe Roadblock action figure. I think this guy came out great. I think that Mezco's G.I. Joe line is going to be like a sleeper hit across the board. I really like Destro, and I'm really looking forward to Firefly and Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. So like in general, I think a lot of people are saying Hasbro Classified does the job for them, but they're missing out on some really, really nice toys, Roadblock being one of them. Mezco put out a bunch of great stuff this year, but that's the only figure that I believe that I put. Yeah, that's it. They get an honorable mention and then nothing in my top 10. And I think I'm doing that probably a little bit out of spite for how they have the tendency to have really, really long pre-orders, go way over their ship dates, and they're expensive, and they do this thing where it's like all of a sudden deluge at the end of the year. With that said, I still have a ton of open pre-orders with them. I'm still excited for a bunch of stuff that's coming out. I can't wait to get Doctor Doom in hand. I know people are getting him already. I will be hopefully getting mine early in the new year. So definitely still a fan of Mezco 112. I just want them to kind of improve as a whole. Okay, and then my final two honorable mentions are both from our friends over at Jada Toys. So Jada Toys have been doing great as an entry into the action figure game. And I really love Chester Cheetah here and Mega Man. These guys both came out really, really nicely. Very cool action figures, great articulation, great style, and I am looking forward to Jada Toys as a whole, their Street Fighter line, the upcoming Cyberpunk stuff, and more Mega Man, more food mascots. Bring them all on. Can't wait. Love Jada toys in general. And I think you'll see a little bit of that in my actual top 10. But before I get into my top 10, I just want to show you guys. Spent a little bit of time earlier taking a picture that I will post onto my personal Instagram and Facebook, probably on Twitter, I mean X, and maybe even Threads. We'll see. But after this show airs, you'll see these pictures. But spent a bunch of time taking a picture of all 20 of my honorable mentions here. So you can see everything that I just spoke about all on screen here. And it only took me, I don't know, like an hour or two. But you'll see why it took even longer once we get into my top 10. All right. Top 10. So honorable mentions. I neglected to say this. I should have said it. They were in no particular order. They were just honorable mentions in general. But my top 10, I am putting them in order, and I'm going to count down from 10 to 1 right now. No idea how long this has been going already. Oh, geez. 16 minutes. This is going to be a long video, guys. Hope you're ready. All right. Coming in at number 10, as I mentioned, NECA has been doing so many great action figures for years now. They're one of my favorite domestic toy companies in general. And this year, they did not disappoint. Tons and tons of good stuff. So I picked this as my number 10, and it is the creature from the Black Lagoon. This guy is more posable than a lot of NECA figures. He's got a little articulated mouth in general. I think you can kind of see it there. But extra hands, extra heads. Like I said, tons of articulation. He looks great with the other Universal monsters from NECA. So very, very happy with this. I'm really hoping that NECA takes another crack at the Invisible Man and gives us one in his like kind of the smoking jacket look at the same style that Jada Toys made for their Universal monsters, Invisible Man. I'd like to see NECA do that. So fingers crossed that that's coming in the near future. Now, at number 9, I was just telling you how awesome Jada Toys is. Jada Toys Street Fighter line, and specifically Fei Long, comes in at my number 9 choice. Fei Long is the one that I chose to represent the Jada Toys Street Fighter line in my top 10, mostly because we hadn't had a Fei Long since the Soda Toys one, and I think this one just runs circles around it. He is a ton of fun to play with and pose, and I copied June. He came up with the idea, but I used Fei Long to make Shredder that is kind of the old Playmates style homage, and I absolutely love it. So I bought an extra Fei Long just to do that, and I'm really looking forward to more of the Street Fighter figures. I would say that there's a very good chance that come 2024, there will be at least one more Jada Toys Street Fighter figure in my top 10. All right, number 8. This one I got to roll back a little bit for, because we have the Hasbro HasLab G.I. Joe Classified Hiss Tank. So this, I know, is a vehicle and not a figure, but it does come with 4 action figures altogether, and this is my top 10, so I'm allowed to do whatever I want. So this guy is my number 8 choice for top toys of 2023. The Hiss Tank is awesome. Does not disappoint in any way. The only thing that bums me out is that I can't bring it upon myself to open up the Cobra Commander action figure, despite really, really wanting an upgraded Cobra Commander for my G.I. Joe classified shelf that is somewhere. Oh, right there. So yeah, hopefully there is another version of that figure coming soon in 2024, because I can't wait to get my hands on it. Number 7. My number 7 choice, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the third-party companies or independent companies, because third party typically, I know Chamba would probably correct me. Third party is usually someone that's like kind of doing that skating around intellectual properties. But there is a lot of overlap in these companies these days that are doing their own independent IPs and also skating around and doing someone else's IP. This particular one is the Foray Planet veteran William Werewolf. So I absolutely love this guy. He came out awesome. He comes with a whole bunch of extra pieces, but in general, I wanted it to just be kind of a standardized werewolf, and I love it. It is so cool. He looks great on my shelf. He fits perfectly with most 1/12 action figure lines. And yeah, they did a great job with it. I know they've put out a bunch of anthropomorphic animals in general. I'm living vicariously through my coworkers and a lot of my friends, watching them take pictures, and I even got to mess with some of them in person. But this guy I love, and yes, he is my number 7 choice. Okay, number 6. So, as I mentioned, SHF has been crushing it this year, and they have been doing gangbusters with the Naruto line. I am I've always been familiar with Naruto. I watched a little bit of it a long time ago, but within the last year, maybe a little bit before that, we started watching it all together as a family. So myself, my wife, and my 10-year-old son. We started off with Naruto. We're now into Shippuden, but my choice for my number 6 pick is the Kid Naruto figure from the original Naruto series. I actually bought 5 of this figure because of his powers. So it on my shelf there are 5 of them, and this figure is great. It's just very posable. Comes with a bunch of face plates, bunch of hands. I absolutely love what they're doing with the Naruto line in general. Very excited for both original Naruto and Shippuden stuff. So please keep it coming, Bandai. Luckily the Naruto line seems to be getting the love that I wish that the One Piece stuff was getting. I am a little bit disappointed in One Piece in general. But yeah, Naruto doing absolutely great. So Hasbro, G.I. Joe Classified, told you, one of my favorite lines in general from a domestic action figure company. And obviously, I chose the Hiss Tank, but there is a single action figure that has made it into my list, and that is the retro carded original Commando Snake Eyes. So this guy is very simple, and he's basically a glorified repaint of the Stalker action figure, but this is Snake Eyes, guys. Snake Eyes is like the quintessential GI Joe character when you think of GI Joe, and the Commando version is even cooler than the Ninja version, and that can be illustrated in the comic book Silent Interlude, where there's no sound, like there's no speech bubbles at all, and it's him in this costume rescuing Scarlet. So obviously, Snake Eyes had to make it into my list, so here he is, and he is my number 5 pick. So, final countdown. Number 4, and continuing in that ninja theme that I have going with Naruto and then Snake Eyes, even though he was the Commando version. Next up, we have another SHF figure, and this is Gabimaru from the anime Hell's Paradise. So he is also a ninja, and Hell's Paradise is a relatively new anime. At least I believe it's in the last year. I know that my wife and I have both watched it, and we absolutely love it. And SHF continues to crush it and did a great job on this action figure. He's so much fun to play with. He comes with all the parts that you would want him to come with. Face with the mask on, face without the mask, and he has the mask to pull down, multiple hands, his sword. The only thing that would be missing would be like some flame effects, but you can get other flame effects and use them with this figure, and he's absolutely a blast to play with. I think Hell's Paradise, and including these SHF figures and the anime itself, it seems to be a little bit slept on, like not necessarily as popular as I was expect it to be, but it is absolutely worth your time to check out. And like I said, the figure, absolutely awesome. That brings us to the final three. So my top three figures of 2023. Number 3 is another one of the third-party action figures that we were talking about earlier. So this one is Muff Toys, the Cow God of Mischief, aka Loki from the Loki TV show. This thing, I mean, like, I don't know if you can see, but it looks like a Hot Toys figure, but it is a 1/12 6-inch action figure that is absolutely outstanding. The articulation is bonkers, so good. Comes with the jacket, comes with a bunch of accessories. Very cool toy. Muff Toys in general is very exciting to me. They've got a lot of good stuff like in the works that'll be coming out next year. And if it's at all like this Cow God of Mischief, I'm very much looking forward to what they put out. And number two, we have the YOLO Park G1 Megatron. And this is technically a model kit. But if you've seen me mention this on Toy Migos, on the live streams before, they're basically the equivalent of Build-A-Figures. So I think it's a way for them to skirt around the license to make non-transformable Transformer action figures. And they did this originally with the movie figures, and then Megatron here was a Kickstarter campaign that I backed, but he's now open to order for the general public. So next up is Optimus Prime. I can't wait. They're doing a lot of other little model kits of G1 figures that are at a smaller scale, but the larger scale is what I'm more excited for. I will probably buy the smaller stuff as well. He has LEDs. He has some die-cast parts, multiple heads. This figure is G1 goodness, and he is very posable. So awesome action figure, G1 Megatron. Trust me, if you are at all a Transformers fan, you will want to add this to your collection. It is great. So do yourself a favor, YOLO Park Megatron. Look it up. And like I said, Optimus Prime is coming out soon. I believe he's set for the first quarter of 2024. So he will likely be making it into my top 10 next year unless they put out some more. And let's see. Fingers crossed for Springer. So, number 1, drumroll. My number 1 toy of 2023 is SHF Chainsaw Man. This thing is absolutely outlandishly good. It is like you can just move it around and it looks amazing in every single pose you can think of. I did watch the anime, but I thought the anime was okay. Like it's not Jujutsu Kaisen or Hell's Paradise, or like it's not up to the same level as any of those in my mind, but this figure is so freaking good. Sorry, his tie just popped out, but he has 2 different ties. He has one that's kind of windswept that you can see I have here, and a standard one. He has multiple heads. Obviously, this one with the tongue out. But the Chainsaw Man figure in general, guys, it just looks, the design so cool, and the figure itself is just so much fun to play with. I absolutely love pulling this guy down off the shelf, posing him, putting him back up on the shelf. Like it will never collect dust. He is just absolutely so much fun. I wholeheartedly recommend it. I know that a lot of people went out and picked him up that have not watched the anime, and I recommend it. I like, you don't need to watch the anime to appreciate how good this action figure is. I'm telling you, absolutely worth buying. So before I go, let me share with you my picture of my top 10. So you can see all of the guys that I just spoke about right there. And I'm very happy, and I wish that there was absolutely more for me to choose this year, but I think that the 20 honorable mentions and then my top 10 here probably wasted enough of your time. Looks like I've gone about a half an hour at this point. So sorry I missed the actual top 10 show, guys. Love all of you Toy Migos and the Chat Migos. Hope you guys had a great holiday break, and I'll see you all in 2024. Plus Ultra!